I walked home in the rain, but someone was following me. It was late autumn in suburban Chicago. A brittle chill clung to the air, and the sky had been leaking cold rain all evening. I left work around 9 p.m., pressing my coat tighter around me as I stepped into the empty parking lot. Puddles of water reflected the dim orange glow of the street lamps, their light wavering with every ripple. I pulled my umbrella open, the slow metallic rattle breaking the silence. I didn't mind. I liked the sound of rain on fabric. It made the world feel softer, less sharp. I didn't drive. I usually walked home. It wasn't far, maybe 10 minutes. Through quiet streets, past familiar homes with porch lights on and curtains drawn. Most people were already curled up on their couches by that hour. I liked that about the neighborhood. It felt safe, predictable, ordinary. But that night didn't feel ordinary. From the moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, something felt off. Not wrong exactly, just heavy. Maybe it was the clouds, or the way the wind carried every sound a little too far. I kept my eyes down and my pace steady. My boots splashed softly through shallow puddles, and the occasional car passed by slowly, wipers squeaking across the glass. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was just a step behind me. I paused at the first crosswalk and listened. Nothing, just the wind. I told myself I was being paranoid. Rain does that, makes you feel like you're being followed by your own echo. But then I heard it, a soft footstep behind me. Just one, then nothing. I turned around, scanning the street. Empty. The rain distorted everything, making shadows ripple and sway. I gave a nervous chuckle, shook my head, and kept walking. Probably a branch falling, or my imagination. That's what I told myself. A few blocks later, it happened again. Soft and slow, closer this time. I spun around, and there, standing under a large oak tree, was someone with an umbrella. They were facing me, not moving, just standing. "Hey," I called out, voice catching in my throat. "You okay?" No answer. The umbrella was tilted low, hiding their face. The rain ran off the edges in steady streams. "Do you need help?" I tried again. Still nothing. A chill crawled down my spine. Something about the way they stood, so still and perfectly balanced, made my skin crawl. I didn't wait for an answer. I turned and kept walking. Faster now. My fingers clenched the umbrella handle tightly. I didn't dare look back. Until I had to. After another block, I could feel it again. That weight behind me. I slowed, turned my head slightly. They were there. Same figure? A little closer now. No footsteps. Just there. I crossed the street without checking for cars and ducked between two houses, cutting through a narrow alley. My shortcut? I'd taken it 100 times before, but this time I ran. I didn't stop until I reached my street. My legs were burning, breath ragged. I finally looked back. No one, just the rain. I stood there for a moment, shaking. Maybe it was over. Maybe I imagined it. The mind does weird things when you're tired. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message, just a photo. Of me, taken from behind. In the rain. My umbrella, my coat. A timestamp from 5 minutes ago. I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. Another buzz. Another photo. Closer this time. No message. I didn't think, I just ran. I bolted down my street, nearly slipping on wet leaves, and fumbled with my keys at the front door. I slammed it shut behind me, locked it, double-locked it. My lungs ached. My fingers were numb. I stood in the hallway, dripping wet, staring at the door. Then something tapped the front window. Not loud, just once. Tap. I didn't move, didn't breathe. My phone buzzed again. I see your lights. Another buzz. You're safe. Another. But not for long. I backed away into the kitchen, trying to think, trying to make sense of any of it. Maybe a prank, maybe someone hacked into my phone. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. Pulled down the blinds, every window, locked every door, turned on every light. Eventually, I sat on the floor in the living room, phone clutched in my hands, listening to the rain. The buzzing stopped. I must have fallen asleep at some point, because the next thing I remember was the gray light of morning leaking through the cracks in the blinds. I stood up slowly, everything sore and stiff, and crept to the window. Nothing. The street was quiet. But on the sidewalk, drawn in the remaining wet streaks from the storm, were two words. I watch. I stared at them for a long time, unable to move. They weren't smeared or sloppy. They were careful, intentional. I haven't walked home since. I take an Uber now, I carry pepper spray. I double-check every lock, and sometimes when it rains, I still feel that heaviness behind me. Like someone is following me. And sometimes I swear I hear a whisper in the rain. We're close. Tap, tap, tap. Don't look back. It was raining hard as I walked home from work. Just a normal 10-minute walk through a quiet neighborhood. But halfway there, I started to feel watched. I heard soft footsteps behind me. When I turned, someone was standing under a tree with an umbrella, just staring. No face, just a silhouette. I crossed the street, walked faster, heart pounding. But the footsteps continued. Every time I looked back, they were closer. I ran home, slammed the door, locked everything. Then I got a message. It was a photo of me, taken from behind, in the rain. Another message, I see your lights. And then next time, don't run. That night I heard footsteps in the hallway. But I live alone. And the next morning, written on the wet sidewalk outside my window, were 2 words. I watch. Now I never walk home when it rains. Ever. It was the kind of rain that didn't let up. Steady, cold, and relentless. The kind that turned your street into a dark, shimmering river and made the world outside look like a blurred painting. I had just finished a long shift at the diner and gotten home around 3:30 p.m. My little apartment sat on the edge of a quiet, residential street in Portland, ground floor. Single bedroom, with a wide living room window that looked out onto the front yard. I loved that window during the day. The light poured in, warming the space like a greenhouse. But at night, especially on a night like this, it turned into a black mirror. I threw my wet jacket on the back of the couch, kicked off my shoes and heated up leftovers, the soft hum of the microwave, and the patter of rain against the glass created a peaceful rhythm. I turned on the TV and settled in with a blanket. Something about rainy nights made horror movies feel even cozier. I was halfway through the mist when it happened. Just once. Sharp, precise. I froze. The knock came from the window. Not the door. Not the back. The window. The living room light was on. The blinds were open. Anyone outside could see me sitting there. I stared at the glass. Rain slid down in sheets, turning everything beyond it into a vague blur of shadows and streetlights. Nothing there. At least nothing I could see. I slowly stood up, heart thudding. Again. Louder this time. Still just one knock. I inched toward the window, keeping a safe distance. My hand hovered over the curtain. A part of me screamed, "Don't do it. Don't look. Just back away, call someone, turn off the light." But curiosity overruled fear. I pulled the curtain aside. No one. Just the dark, rainy street. I waited, counted to 10. Nothing moved. Nothing stirred. A passing car sent ripples through a puddle, but that was it. I let the curtain fall back into place and stepped away. Probably kids. Maybe someone messing around. Still, I locked the window and drew the blinds, just in case. I tried to finish the movie, but I couldn't focus. My eyes kept drifting to the window. I muted the TV and sat in silence, listening. Nothing. Eventually, I shook my head, laughed at myself, and went to bed. I wish I hadn't. 3:13 a.m. I woke up in total darkness. No storm, no thunder. Just that odd pressure, the kind that wakes you before you know why. Then I heard it. Again. From the window. My bedroom window. The one facing the side alley. I bolted upright. That window was near my bed, just 3 feet from where I slept, and I knew that it had been locked. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The knock didn't come again, but something else did. A whisper, right outside the glass. My name. Barely audible, drawn out and wet sounding, like it had been dragged through the rain. "Aaron?" I clenched my blanket like it was armor. My heart pounded so loud I thought it would drown out the voice. Then a shadow moved across the thin curtain. Tall, slow. It didn't stop to look in. It just passed by like it knew I was watching. Like it wanted me to know it was watching too. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just sat there staring at the window, waiting for it to return. It never did. Morning came. I checked the window, still locked. No footprints in the alley, just wet leaves, no smudges, no signs that anyone had been there. I called the building manager. but there were no camera systems. It was probably a raccoon or something, he said. Yeah, a raccoon that knew my name. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was half asleep, maybe I dreamed it. But that night it came back. Night 2. No knock. This time it was scratching. Just soft enough that I almost thought it was in my head. I turned off all the lights, sat on the floor with my back to the wall and waited. The scratching continued for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Then silence. I finally crept to the window and pulled back the curtain. There, in the condensation on the outside of the glass, was a handprint, 5 long fingers, longer than any human's. By the 3rd night, I was a wreck. I didn't go to work, I didn't eat, I just waited for nightfall, terrified. This time I tried filming the window. Set up my phone, hit record, pointed it right at the curtain. At 2:57 a.m., I heard the whisper again. But it wasn't my name this time. It was a laugh. A breathy, raspy giggle, like it was enjoying this. I wanted to run, but where? So I stayed. I listened, and eventually, silence. The next morning, I checked the footage. The file was there, but it was corrupted. Just static, and a few seconds of something flickering like a pale face grinning through the grain. I stopped watching. The rain hasn't stopped since. It's been 9 nights now. Every night around the same time it knocks. It whispers. Sometimes I hear footsteps on the roof. Other times I see shapes in the mist just beyond the yard. I don't know what it wants, but I know it's not random. Because last night, it spoke again. Not my name, not laughter. It said, "Let me in." 3 words, clear as day. I'm writing this now with every light on, every curtain drawn, and the TV playing to keep my nerves from snapping, but I know it's coming back. I can feel it. The air shifts when it's near. The rain sounds different, like it's closer. If you ever hear a knock on your window during a storm, don't look. Don't open the curtain, don't respond, because if you do, it remembers you, and it will come back again and again until you finally let it in. It started just after midnight. I was alone at home. My wife was visiting her sister 2 states over, and I'd taken a week off work to rest. Our house sits near the edge of town, where the suburbs start thinning into woods. It's quiet out here, peaceful, usually. That night, I had just finished watching a movie and was about to head to bed when I heard it. Crying. Faint at first, just barely audible over the hum of the fridge and the tick of the wall clock. A soft, pitiful sob coming from outside. I paused, muted the TV, and listened. It was real. A child? No, not quite. The voice had a brittle, rasping edge. Too hoarse, too slow. I walked to the front window and peered out into the darkness. Nothing. Just our lawn, the empty street, and the black trees lining the backyard. The crying continued. It wasn't close. It sounded like it was coming from the tree line. Maybe just beyond the edge of our property. I leaned closer, squinting. Then it stopped. Abruptly. I waited a few moments before letting the curtain fall. Probably someone walking by. Maybe a prank. Teens sometimes roam the neighborhood at night trying to scare people. I locked the front door, turned off the lights, and went upstairs. But just as I reached the top step, I heard it again. The crying. Louder now. And closer. I froze. It was coming from the backyard. I stepped back down, heart thudding, and walked toward the kitchen, which faces the rear of the house. I flicked the light switch, but the backyard stayed dark. The motion sensor floodlight didn't come on. I pressed my face to the glass door and tried to see through the reflection. That's when I saw her. She was standing near the tree line. A woman in a white dress soaked to her knees in mud. Her black hair hung in wet clumps over her face, and her body seemed almost limp, like she wasn't holding herself up entirely. She didn't move. She just stood there, head tilted down, arms at her sides. Crying. My breath caught in my throat. I locked the back door without taking my eyes off her, and slowly backed away. I wanted to call the police, but I couldn't move. Couldn't think. My eyes were glued to the glass. The crying grew louder, and then, without warning, she stopped. Her head snapped upward, and she looked directly at me. I jumped back. Her face wasn't right. Her eyes were too wide. Too white. Her mouth hung open, twisted in a sob that no longer made sound. And then the floodlight flickered on. She was gone. I searched the yard, nothing. Just wet grass and darkness. I finally called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later, looked around, took my statement and left. There was no sign of her, no footprints, no broken branches. They said it was probably someone passing through, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just passing through, that she had come here for me. I barely slept. The next night, I made sure every door and window was locked before sundown. I kept the lights on and stayed in the living room, watching the security camera feed on my phone. Nothing happened for hours, until 2:03 a.m. A notification buzzed. Motion detected, backyard camera. I opened the app. There she was, standing just at the edge of the camera's night vision range, motionless, facing the house. Then slowly she began walking toward the camera. One dragging step at a time, I stared, frozen, as she got closer. Closer, until her face filled the screen. Eyes wide, skin gray, mouth open in a soundless scream. Then the camera feed cut out. I sprinted to the back door. Nothing, no movement, no light. Until I heard a sound upstairs. Crying. Inside the house, I grabbed the bat from under the couch and moved toward the stairs. Every step felt like wading through molasses. My brain screamed at me to run, but my legs carried me forward. The crying came from the guest bedroom. I opened the door slowly, raising the bat. The room was empty, but the window was open. The crying stopped. Then came a whisper right behind me. "You saw me." I turned around, swinging wildly. Nothing was there. I slammed the window shut and stayed awake until morning. All the lights on, bat in hand, heart never slowing. I haven't heard the crying again since that night. But sometimes when I look at the security footage, catch flickers, glitches. Frame or two of something standing at the edge of the screen, watching, waiting. Last week I found something on the back porch. Photo, old faded, edges burned, of a woman in a white dress, standing in front of our house. The back read, "She drowned. She cries. And when you hear her, it's already too late." I tried to move on. I really did. I threw the photo away. Burned it, actually. But the next morning, I found the ashes scattered neatly on my doormat, shaped into a single word: stay. I installed new cameras, upgraded the alarm system, even brought in a paranormal investigator. I found online some guy named Felix who claimed he had cleansed over 70 haunted properties across the Midwest. He walked through the house, burning sage and muttering in Latin. After a while, he stood still in the guest bedroom, the same one with the open window. "This isn't just a spirit," he said quietly, eyes scanning the corners of the room. "This is grief. Violent grief. She lost something here, or someone, and now she's looking for it." I asked him what I was supposed to do. He just looked at me and said, "Don't listen to her. If you hear crying again, ignore it." That night I wore noise-canceling headphones. I turned the volume on full blast. I tried to drown everything out. But at exactly 1:43 a.m., even through the music, I felt it. A presence. Like the temperature dropped 20 degrees. And even though I couldn't hear her, I could feel her. Crying, mourning, begging. I ripped the headphones off and backed into the hallway. The lights flickered. The door to the guest room creaked open, and standing just inside the frame, she was there, closer than ever. Her head tilted, her mouth moving silently. Tears ran down her face like ink, black and thick and slow. She stepped forward. I slammed the bedroom door and ran downstairs. Locked myself in the bathroom. Waited until sunrise. When I emerged, she was gone, but she left something behind. Carved into the wall just above my bed were 4 words. "Bring her back to me." I don't know who she's talking about. I don't know what she wants. But I've started hearing the crying during the day now, and sometimes when I close my eyes, I see her face at the window, smiling, waiting.